Hey guys, RPM here. Well, I think that's it. Ethereum Classic is looking to be, I would say, not as profitable to mine after the Ethereum merge, but that's going to be dependent on the price. As now, Innosilicon has released a new firmware on their A10 and A10 Pros, and apparently the A11 Pros are also going to come out with the ETC hash algorithm update as well. So what does that mean? Well, that means however many of these Innosilicon ASIC miners that are out on Ethereum right now are probably going to move over to Ethereum Classic. And so that's going to render it a lot more difficult to mine. The network hash rate is probably going to be higher, and probably, depending on the price, profitability may not be there for most residential miners, which is unfortunate, but time will tell. I guess we'll see. So I want to talk with you all about it. So before we begin, this video is sponsored by Okay, so there is a blog article that just came out today as of recording on 2miners.com. It says Innosilicon released new mining firmware to mine Ethereum Classic on ASIC. So they say here that July 2022 is definitely a good month for Ethereum Classic. While the cryptocurrency market keeps falling, ETC goes in the opposite direction. In the last 24 hours, the exchange rate increased by 20%, and in the last 2 weeks, it has leaped by 169%. With more and more hype around the coin, it doesn't remain unnoticed in the cryptocurrency community. Mining device manufacturers are no exception. Now you can officially mine ETC with the Innosilicon A10 and A10 Pros. Keep reading for more details and mining settings. And just a disclaimer, 2miners does have an Ethereum Classic pool, so they essentially do benefit from you mining to their pool for Ethereum Classic. So just, you know, there might be a little bit of a bias here, but anyways, I'm not going to go through read this. I'll have this link down below. They have here how to essentially get the firmware. They have some other information here, but ultimately I'm on the innosilicon.com website support page here, miner support center, and you can see here they have the Innosilicon A10 Pro and A10 Pro 720 mega hash. Personally, I have both the A10 Pro and the A10 Pro 720 mega hash version. I'm going to be asking the gentleman Yankee, who is hosting my two Innosilicons right now, to ship them back to me, and I'm going to do a firmware update on those, and I will do another video on that. I'll let you guys know. But yeah, I'm going to probably move those to ETC hash. And I heard that doing this firmware update might be, you know, if you want to move back to ETH hash, that might be a bit difficult to do. But just looking at their firmware support page here, you can see on the A10 Pros, they have the 6GB model, 5GB model firmware, and the 8GB firmware model. And looking at the date here, it says 2022-0706. So I'm wondering if this came out on July 6th of 2022. So it's been about a couple weeks now. It's July 29th as of recording. So yeah, this is the first time I'm hearing about it. And so if this is news that they, I don't know, kept under the rug for this long, and maybe, I don't know, colluding against pumping ETC, or, you know, you guys seen the price go up recently from Antpool pumping $10 million into ETC development. I wonder if there's a little bit of like a whale market making play there on exchanges to pump ETC. All of this together, you know, with the ASIC manufacturers, I feel like there's potentially some type of, you know, some type of conspiracy there in terms of pumping Ethereum Classic so that people will essentially buy their ASIC miners, like the Bitmain Antminer E9 that just came out. And I'm sure the older Innosilicon A10 Pros, which I'm sure there's a whole bunch of them out in the market right now. And of course, Innosilicon benefits from that. But of course, Bitmain benefits from that as well. iPolo also benefits from that because they also sell a bunch of those. You guys have seen them on my channel, those mini iPolo V1 minis. Anyways, looking at their support page, yeah, they have the A10 Pro 720 mega hash, but 7GB, 6GB, and the 8GB model firmware here. So this is pretty interesting. Once I have my A10 Pro 720 and the 5G model, the A10 Pro 5G, I will do another video on that, like I said. So I've heard that the A11 Pro will also have a firmware update, but it's not released yet. So that's going to be later. So the question is, right now, I'm sure a lot of you may be wondering, and I'm also wondering, is how many of these Innosilicon ASIC miners are out on the market right now? How many of them are out in the wild, and how many of them are on Ethereum right now that will most likely move to Ethereum Classic? That's probably a given. So once people know this information, they're going to download the firmware and just go full on after the Ethereum merge, which is slated to happen within about 51 days as of recording. It's July 29th. Of course, only if the Goerli testnet is successful. We're not sure if that's going to, transpire or not, but if it is successful, then nothing will stop on having the merge on mainnet, and that's essentially the end of proof of work. So I'm curious to know how much of the Ethereum hash rate right now are those Innosilicons, or maybe the Antminer E9s. And actually, there may be some type of correlation with the Antminer E9 that was released, I think, back in June, right? And in May here, you can see the network hash rate drop off quite a bit, like off a cliff here, within a matter of, I would say, less than a couple weeks, right? And looking at here from here, if there's a gradual downturn in terms of the shutting off of the Bitmain E9s, as those are now released or were announced during this time, and then now they're being shipped out as of right now as I speak. So, these E9s could be slowly turning back on, and the network hash rate is going to slowly come back up, in my opinion. But anyways, begs the question, Antminer E9, Innosilicon A10 Pros, all these iPolo miners that are out in the wild right now are probably going to just move over to Ethereum Classic after the merge. And looking at what the network hash rate is on Ethereum, with roughly about 900 terahash, Ethereum Classic right now is roughly about 33. So I'm going to say it's about what? Ethereum is 30 times more hash rate than Ethereum Classic. So to see that much Ethereum hash rate move over to Ethereum Classic, if that were to happen, I don't think that's going to happen because, depending on people's electrical cost and the profitability, network difficulty, and of course the price of Ethereum Classic, it's going to depend on if it's going to be profitable for those people that are going to mine either out of pocket or break even, or just, they're still profiting because depending on their electrical costs, their expenses, they may be able to keep going on mining Ethereum Classic. So I think, in my opinion, after the merge, there's going to be a massive influx of hash rate that is going to move over to all these coins. What to mine is going to take a couple days, maybe a week to really level off, just understand the difficulty and profitability. Maybe it only takes about a day or two to really average out the 24 hours profitability. So it's gonna happen quick, and I think it'll be a shocker for a lot of people. And so for those that have higher electrical cost, will not be able to stay competitive. 20 cents, 16 cents, 15 cents, 10 cent per kilowatt hour even. I mean, there's at one point in the last bear market, like 9 cent per kilowatt hour was just breaking even on mining on GPUs. So with all of the efficient hardware that are out in the market right now, especially for ETC hash, now that the Innosilicon's available to do it because of the firmware, the Bitmain Antminer E9, we got the Jazz miner, we got a whole bunch of these iPolos that are out in the market. These types of ASIC miners are, if not on par, better and more efficient than GPUs on mining Ethereum Classic, okay, the ETH hash algorithm or ETC hash. So I think GPUs is going to be out of the question for mining Ethereum Classic. If ETC doesn't change their algorithm to another algorithm, I don't think that's going to happen anyway. It sounds like they're going to stay on ETC hash. So it's going to be a crazy time. I'm going to document it all. I'll let you guys all know after the merge. It's going to be a pretty either sad time or a pretty interesting time or a pretty profitable time, depending on what your electrical cost is. I know that there's plenty of people out there that have 1 cent per kilowatt hour, 2 cents, 3 cents, 4 cents. I've talked with many people like that. And of course, I've talked with people that have 40 cents, 50 cents per kilowatt hour, 30 cents per kilowatt hour in like Germany or California, in the UK, people have like 35 or something. And, up in Canada, people range from like 0.8 to 0.10, 10 cents and so on and so forth. There's going to be a massive shift, right? There's going to be a massive shift of people turning off And I think that it's going to be a very interesting time. So I want to know what you all think about this. Okay. I want to know how much Ethereum hash rate is going to move over. Like I said, it's going to be really dependent on the difficulty of Ethereum Classic. And like I said in the previous video, they also have fifth innings every 2 to 3 years, right? Every 5 million blocks. So that's something else to consider. It's going to increase the difficulty as everyone's going to get essentially less and less of the pie, right? Every block reward is going to get cut down by 20% every fifth inning. Anyways, guys, I'm curious to know your thoughts, and I will see you in the video when I get my A10 Pros back, and I will do the firmware update on these guys and see if it works on ETC hash. I'm sure it will. But it's going to be interesting to see how much Ethereum Classic hash rate we'll have after the merge. That's ultimately it. All right, I'll see you on the next video. Have a good one. Peace out.